Support for this podcast comes from the St. Alphonsus Neuroscience Institute, offering technology to provide treatment for neurological, neurosurgical, and neurointerventional conditions. This includes a dedicated neurotrauma ICU for critical care of the brain or spine and a 24/7 stroke team. More at stalphonsus.org.
The Winter Olympics are back, and Boise State Public Radio Music is celebrating the 25th Games in Milan Cortina.
Welcome to the 25th Winter Olympic Games.
NPR is covering the Games from Italy, bringing you the stories behind the competition, now through February 22nd.
It's been amazing being here with Team USA.
From new events to medal counts and Team USA's highlights, follow it all with NPR's 2026 Winter Olympics coverage at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From Boise State Public Radio News, this is The Connector, Idaho Daily News. Good morning. I'm Troy Oppie in for George Prentice on this Friday, February 13th. Here are today's headlines. A very busy day at the Statehouse as up or down budgets begin on agency budgets, and today's the deadline to file new bills. West Valley Humane Society will continue to provide animal shelter services in Canyon County and anthrax in beef cattle in Cassia County. But we start this morning with legislative action to give Idaho homeowners a break from certain regulations on short-term rentals. A bill relaxing the rules cleared the House yesterday morning. Here's James Dawson with more.
Under the proposal, cities and counties could not require property owners to follow regulations beyond those that already apply to single-family homes. Here's Republican Representative Dale Hawkins.
We've regulated ourselves to death. This is a simple issue of private property rights. Let people who own their land do what they would like.
But some think the bill is too heavy-handed. Republican Representative Britt Raybould says neighbors of these rentals will be burdened with the oversight of guests who don't follow the law.
So in essence, we are relying on citizens to be the ones that are enforcing the law, reporting these individuals to their respective cities or counties to ensure that the law is being followed.
The bill passed 54-16 and now goes to the Senate, which is considering its own package of looser regulations. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
It will be a busy day at the State House today, the final day legislative leadership is giving for new bill introductions. On the House side of the rotunda, there are nearly 50 pieces of legislation set to be introduced, 27 in one committee alone. On deadline day in past sessions, some committees have introduced multiple bills as a group, bypassing individual votes. Legislation that's introduced may or may not come back to committees for a full public hearing. Legislative budget writers will also take their first up or down votes on about a dozen budgets for the upcoming fiscal year today. As they do this, Democrats are urging Republican leaders to use the state's rainy day funds to avoid spending cuts. Last week, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee voted to slice hundreds of millions of dollars between the current fiscal year and the next. Republican leaders say Idaho needs to rebalance its priorities, despite warnings that cuts will further harm workforce development, public health, and agriculture programs. Democratic Representative Steve Birch says the GOP doesn't have a good answer for cutting budgets when state reserve funds are more than $1.5 billion.
Well, when you ask about why are we not using the rainy day funds, they say because Idaho's doing great. So it's a very simple question. If Idaho's economy is so great, why are we cutting budgets?
Birch and other members of his party say using 1/3 of the state's reserves will keep the programs whole while tax collections grow over the next year. The proposal has been a non-starter for Republicans. Other notable action from the State House on Thursday, lawmakers in the House State Affairs Committee unanimously advanced a bill to the House floor, giving the legislature the authority to hire outside legal counsel so they can bring legal action against other entities like the federal government. Currently, the legislature is only allowed to hire its own outside counsel when it is a defendant. And on the House floor yesterday, a near unanimous approval with no negative debate for the bill that will allow the State Board of Education to only publicize one finalist in the hiring process for state university presidential searches. Boise State has been unable to hire a new president because it cannot find 5 potential finalists willing to have their candidacy publicized, as is the current requirement. Democrat John Gannon was the lone no vote on that bill yesterday. It now goes to the Senate. Going outside the State House now, a coalition of environmental advocacy groups say they're suing Burley and Rexburg for Clean Water Act violations from local water treatment plants. Both facilities have a long pattern of violations, including excess amounts of nitrogen, sediment, and oxygen removed by microorganisms in the treatment process. Over the last 5 years, a compliance report from the Idaho Conservation League showed more than 750 Clean Water Act violations in Burley, which discharges wastewater into the Snake River. In Rexburg, around 480 individual violations are alleged over the same time period. Treated wastewater there goes into the South Fork Teton River, a tributary of the Snake. ICL's compliance report showed more than half of water treatment plants in Idaho had pollution violations in 2024. The group says the decision to sue just Burley and Rexburg is due to the pattern of violations and the size of the plants. In Canyon County, the West Valley Humane Society is pausing its move out of the county-owned animal shelter facility and will continue to provide services through at least September. The county, in a news release late yesterday, announced it had reached an agreement with the society after another provider, chosen through an open bidding process last year, backed out of contract negotiations this week. Copper Quill Haven said it felt pressured into opening on an accelerated timeline, which wasn't best for responsible animal care. After losing the contract and losing an appeal, West Valley Humane Society had announced it would leave the county-owned building today, but the county now says West Valley will continue operating on its previous contract through the end of the current fiscal year. County officials and representatives from Nampa and Caldwell say they'll meet monthly with West Valley starting in March to work on short and long-term solutions for animal shelter services in the area. Anthrax was discovered in a beef cattle herd in Cassia County. The State Department of Agriculture says bacteria spores can linger in the soil for decades and still be contagious if inhaled. Health officials are working with anyone who may have been exposed, though the overall risk to the public is low. A vaccine can protect remaining cattle and livestock. Infected animals did not make it into the food supply, according to an ISDA news release. The city of Boise calls the state Supreme Court ruling in favor of the Harris Ranch Community Infrastructure District a landmark decision, the first involving what are called CIDs after lawmakers first allowed the neighborhood taxing districts in 2008. Some neighbors had sued in 2021, upset over a $7.1 million project approved by the Harris Ranch CID board. That's one citizen and two Boise City Council members. It's paid for with a property tax on homes in Harris Ranch. Opposed residents alleged the CID was illegally formed in 2010, and they disputed what development costs were allowed to be reimbursed. The state's high court, though, upheld a lower court ruling in favor of the district. Property taxes for the project will continue for Harris Ranch residents. Boise Dev reports the city of Boise absorbed the legal costs to defend the district in the case. The Mulhern County Sheriff in Eastern Oregon confirmed it has relocated more than 220 goats from the Grand Bar Dairy in Nyssa. The move follows an investigation by advocacy group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals into animal mistreatment and malnourishment at Grand Bar. In its announcement of the animal seizure, PETA said the goats had been taken to another dairy and not a sanctuary, as the group had requested. Late Wednesday, Mulhern County Sheriff Travis Johnson issued a statement saying more than 200 goats were taken to an out-of-state dairy to receive milking, nutrition, and proper care, and that the sheriff's office would be working with the new dairy to get as many of those animals into sanctuary care as possible. A few other goats still remain in Sheriff's Department custody. A spokesperson for PETA was skeptical of the promise, alleging Sheriff Johnson had ignored their investigation findings until Oregon's State Department of Justice stepped in to take action. First- and second-degree animal neglect charges are possible against Grand Bar Dairy, but have not yet been filed. Boise State and Idaho will renew a football rivalry dormant since 2010. Idaho Governor Brad Little yesterday celebrated that announcement by recommissioning Idaho's Governor's Trophy, which was first awarded to the winner of the game 25 years ago by then-Governor Dirk Kempthorne.
Today, we celebrate not just a game, but a tradition that unites our state, honors our history, and showcases the very best of Idaho.
University of Idaho President Scott Green credited Boise State's interim president Jeremiah Shin for bringing school leadership together to get a deal done, but it is just one game on the schedule 5 seasons from now in September of 2031. And that's your connector on this Friday, the eve of Valentine's Day, the eve of President's Day weekend. I hope you have a nice long weekend in store. We'll be off on Monday, but back with you again on Tuesday morning, both on the radio and here online for the connector from Boise State Public Radio. Thanks for listening. Make it a great day.
Hi, it's Terry Gross, host of Fresh Air. Hey, take a break from the 24-hour news cycle with us and listen to long-form interviews with your favorite authors, actors, filmmakers, comedians, and musicians, the people making the art that nourishes us and speaks to our times. So listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.